Picture this. It's a Tuesday morning in New York City. 7:42 a.m. The subway is packed. Steam rising from the grates on Fifth Avenue, coffee cups, earbuds, heads down. 8 million people moving like a machine. And then, the machine stops. Not because of a power outage, not because of a storm, because something appears in the sky above Manhattan. Not a plane, not a drone. Something that has no name in any modern language, but has a name in a book that was hidden for 2,000 years. A book that someone decided you were never supposed to read. In 1947, a Bedouin shepherd threw a rock into a cave in the Jordanian desert. He heard something break. What he found inside would quietly terrify the academic world for the next 70 years. Ancient scrolls, over 2,000 years old, and among them, a text that had been deliberately removed from the Bible, erased by a council of bishops in the 4th century, without public explanation, without debate, just gone. The Book of Enoch. And what it describes is not mythology. It is a detailed report of beings who came down from the sky, who made a pact, who changed the course of human history, and who are still waiting. Sit down and be still. The ancient sage is about to reveal what has been hidden from you for a very long time. Before we get to New York, you need to understand who these beings actually are. Not the Sunday school version, the real version. The Book of Enoch describes a specific group of angels called the Watchers, in Hebrew, Irin. 200 of them, and they made a choice they knew was forbidden. They descended onto Mount Hermon, on the border of what is now Israel, Lebanon, and Syria. And there, according to the text, they swore an oath to each other. We will go down, we will take wives, we will have children, and none of us will turn back. Their leader was named Semyaza. His second in command was named Azazel. These are not invented names. Azazel appears in Leviticus, in the Old Testament itself. He is the being to whom the scapegoat was sent on the Day of Atonement. Real enough to receive a ritual, real enough to be named in Scripture. What happened after the Watchers descended is what disturbed scribes for millennia. They taught humanity things that were not meant to be known. Azazel taught men how to forge swords, shields, and armor. He taught women about jewelry, cosmetics, and seduction. Another Watcher taught astrology. Another taught the manipulation of weather. Another, and this is the most unsettling part, taught how to read the signals of the human mind to control behavior. 2,000 years before the word neuroscience existed, the children born from the union of Watchers and human women were called the Nephilim, giants, beings that did not fully belong to either world. And the earth began to collapse under the weight of what had been unleashed. Now here is what most people miss. This is not only in Enoch. Genesis chapter 6, the most widely read book on earth, opens with a passage that most people skim over. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves. Sons of God, in Hebrew, Bene Ha-Elohim. The same phrase used to describe heavenly beings in Job, in Psalms, in Daniel. This is not a metaphor, it is a category of being. And Genesis continues. In those days there were giants on the earth, were, past tense. But Enoch goes further. He describes the Watchers being imprisoned in specific locations, under mountains, in sealed caves, in abysses beneath the desert floor, waiting until a specific day, a day the text says has not yet come. Now let's talk about New York, because New York is not a random city in this conversation. It is built on some of the oldest exposed bedrock on the planet. Manhattan schist, rock that is over 500 million years old. The same geological formations that made it possible to build skyscrapers in the first place. But here is what almost no one talks about. The Lenape people, the original inhabitants of the island of Manhattan, had a name for the land. Mannahatta, island of many hills, and their oral traditions describe beings that came from above, beings of light that descended and taught their ancestors, beings that eventually left or were taken with a promise to return. The Haudenosaunee, the Iroquois Confederacy, whose territory surrounded what is now New York State, describe sky beings in their creation stories with a specificity that has no parallel in neighboring cultures. Beings with knowledge of the stars, beings that interfered with human development, beings that were eventually separated from the human world by a force greater than themselves. Different continent, different language, same story. Now imagine what happens when the seal breaks, not metaphorically, literally. Enoch describes the release of the Watchers as coming with signs, tremors in the earth, lights in the sky that move unlike anything natural, animals fleeing without visible cause, and collective dreams, different people in different countries seeing the same image on the same night. Does that sound familiar? Because Noé has documented unexplained seismic micro-events beneath the Hudson River Valley for decades. The FAA receives thousands of unexplained aerial phenomenon reports over the New York metro area every year. And in 2023, the US government officially acknowledged it does not know what is causing certain atmospheric anomalies over the northeastern United States. These are not conspiracy theories, these are public records. So why was the Book of Enoch removed from the Bible? It was accepted. The Apostle Jude quotes Enoch directly in his letter, which is in the New Testament. Peter references the imprisoned watchers in his second epistle. The early church fathers read Enoch, Tertullian, Origen, Irenaeus, until the Council of Laodicea in 363 AD, when it was removed from the canon. No public record of why, no surviving debate, just a decision, and a book that vanished from Western Christianity for 1,500 years. Until a Scottish explorer named James Bruce brought 3 copies back from Ethiopia in 1773. Ethiopia, where the Orthodox Church never stopped reading it, where it was never banned, where certain communities treat it not as mythology, but as history. Enoch describes the moment God issued the order to imprison the Watchers, and the language is specific. Bind Azazel hand and foot, and cast him into the darkness. Make an opening in the desert, the place called Dudael, and cast him in. Place rough and jagged rocks upon him, cover him in darkness. He shall remain there until the day of judgment. Until the day, which means the day has not come, which means they are still there, wherever there is. So what would it actually look like if the imprisonment ended over New York today? It would not begin with an explosion. It would begin with silence, the kind of silence that hits a crowd of 10,000 people at the same moment. The subway stops, not from a power failure, but because every driver sees the same thing at the same time through every tunnel window. The screens in Times Square go dark, not cut to black, replaced by a light that has no source, that comes from no direction, that is simply everywhere. And then they appear, not as monsters, not as angels with white wings, as something the human brain has no category for, something that looks almost familiar, almost human, but with eyes that have seen things older than this planet. Here is what no religious text will tell you directly. Enoch does not describe the Watchers as demons. He describes them as beings who made a wrong choice, who violated a law they fully understood, who suffered the consequences, but who still carry knowledge, vast knowledge, about the architecture of the universe, about the nature of time, about what the human body is actually capable of, about what was built into humanity before history began. Think about what that would mean. Beings who watched the construction of the pyramids, who were present when the first human language was spoken, who remember what was on this planet before the flood, standing in Central Park, looking at the skyline, and knowing exactly what it replaced. New York City sits at the convergence of two tectonic plates, the same geological tension that built the bedrock that holds the skyscrapers. Beneath Bryant Park, there is a subterranean water table that connects to an underground river system that has never been fully mapped. Beneath Grand Central Terminal, there are tunnels that appear on no official record. Beneath the streets of Lower Manhattan, archaeologists have found Native American artifacts alongside materials that have no clear cultural origin. The city is built on layers, each layer hiding something the layer above it forgot. And the deepest layer has been waiting. Picture it again. Tuesday morning, 7:42 a.m. The light in the sky is now visible from every borough, from the Bronx to Staten Island, from Williamsburg to Flushing. Cell phone signals stop working, not from interference, from something that has no technical explanation. And in the silence that follows, in the first real silence New York City has experienced in over a century, something descends, not with thunder, with the same quiet that fell over the Jordan Desert in 1947, when a shepherd's thrown rock broke open a jar, and 2,000 years of hidden history cracked into the light. What descends looks at the city, at 8 million faces, at every screen, every camera, every eye pointed upward. And it remembers. It remembers what stood here before any of this. It remembers the pact made on the mountain. It remembers the punishment. And it remembers one other thing, that the humans it looks at now carry something of it inside them. From before the flood, from before the records, from the moment the pact was made, the Book of Enoch ends with a prayer that Enoch himself offered on behalf of the imprisoned watchers, asking for mercy. The answer he received was no. There is no peace for you. But the book does not end with condemnation. It ends with a blessing for the human beings left on earth, for those who carry within them both the dust of the ground and the memory of the sky. Maybe that's the real question this story has always been asking. Not, what would the Watchers do to us? But, what would we do with what we remember? Because if Enoch is right, if the knowledge was planted inside humanity before the imprisonment, then New York would not just be the place where they appeared. It would be the place where both sides of that ancient story finally recognized each other. The ancient sage has revealed what was hidden. What you do with it is yours to decide.